Hey, it's Larry Gonzalez with your housing market update for the middle of December. It's getting chilly across the country, but not in Hawaii. I'm actually not in Hawaii right now. I'm in Annapolis, Maryland, and the day after we get here, it drops into the 40s. So hey, but that's better than the 20s we were in last week. So here we go with the housing market update. There's a lot going on. Now, for the first time in probably about 3 weeks, we went from all green arrows to 2 greens and a red. That's right. Prices are up. We'll get into that. We have the Honolulu Board of Realtors report that just came out. Inventory is up too, and that's a good thing. We'll get into that. Rates, though, rates are up. Not a lot, but they're up. Actually, the fact that they're not up higher, we're pretty lucky in my opinion. So let's look at the headline news. We have a very strong Honolulu housing market report for the month of November. Inflation hikes are causing concerns, and the big report that came out on Thursday was only offset by jobless claims, which actually spiked a lot more than what we have seen in the past. Now let's start off with the Honolulu Board of Realtors housing market report for the month of November. You can see median sales price still steadily over 1.1 million. And median sales price for condos, $530,000. That's up from $525,000 last year. Overall, year over year, you're seeing sales up. However, again, we need to look at the month-to-month numbers because those are a lot more important. And if you look at the number of closed sales from October to November of this year, there was a 22% drop in single-family homes and a 15% drop in condo sales month over month. And that is largely in part due to higher interest rates. People who closed in November locked in September and October when interest rates were shooting back up again. That's why you see such a drop in those numbers. There were a lot of people who actually dropped out of contract. I spoke with multiple realtors this last month who had homes come back on the market. If you look at median days on the market, you had a 50% increase in days on market for single family homes and a 23% raise in days on market. Now at 32 days on market is the average for homes or for condos. A couple other big numbers, you can see that active inventory was just slightly up for single family homes and up almost 5% for condos. A month's supply of active inventory steady at 3.3. We've been right around 3% for much of the year, but condos up to 5.6 months of inventory, up from 5.4. That number is going high, and it's probably going to keep going higher. So those are the monthly numbers, and those are the ones that I certainly look at more so than the year-over-year number. All right, we'll look at a couple of the charts now. You can see the median days on market, the big spike in median days on market, even for single family homes. Again, a 50% increase. This is due to higher rates, but also this is kind of what happens normally at this time of the year. So at the end of the year. So a little bit of a shock, but not too much because they normally go up this time of the year. New listings, steady number of new listings in November. Didn't go down, didn't go up, right about the same. And overall, stable listings for this number of new listings for this time of year again. Active inventory, we got 2 charts here. One from the Honolulu Board of Realtors. It just shows 2,798 total homes. That's a combination of single family homes and condos on the market right now, or at least at the end of November. Again, the highest that we have had since certainly in the last 4 years, many cases just before COVID. And actually, let's take a look at another chart that shows the total active inventory of homes in Honolulu County. And you can see, if you extrapolate across from the end of November all the way back before COVID, our inventory level was lower than what it is now. This, for me, excites me, and it should excite you too. Whether you're a buyer or a realtor, there are more homes now. We're almost, I would say, back to a stable housing market going into 2025. All we need is them rates to come down. And let me tell you, that may happen. We just need to get them in this certain channel. We'll get into that in a second. But I tell you what, and that is some great positive news ending the year. Inventory is higher than it's been since now, even before COVID. Woo! That's some good stuff. If you look at the number of closed sales, though, closed sales were down again. I showed you that comparison from last month and also from last year. And again, that's due to the rise in interest rates. But again, we had more closed sales despite rates going up in 2024 than we did in 2023, and we're pretty in line with where we were in 2022. You look at the median sales price, hey, steady. We are steady. Single family homes, 1.1 million. That looks like that new. If you draw a line straight across from where we're at now, that's right about where we've been for the last 3 years. Right around 1.1 million in a high interest rate environment to stay steady like that at even a higher number. What is normal across the U.S.? Man, I tell you what, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Even condos. Condos are still high at over 500 and between 520, 530,000 for much of this year in a high rate environment. That says a lot about our housing market here and just really shows you how valuable home ownership is and what that demand is for homes. And I'll show you a couple other numbers here. Again, there's just so much good news coming out this week with regards to the future for the housing market in Hawaii. I'm excited talking about it. I'm a homer for homes, if you might say. Or something like that. So let's get into the inflation report, because we had 2 inflation reports this week, the CPI and the PPI, the Consumer Price Index and the Producer Price Index. For the Consumer Price Index, the numbers came in pretty much where we expected them to. Headline inflation did rise, though, from 2.6 to 2.7. 2 months ago, it was at 2.4%. So we're going in the wrong direction on headline inflation. And the core stayed the same at 3.3%, so 2 months in a row at 3.3%. Again, as expected, because they are replacing numbers that we had a year ago. But it's kind of interesting. The shelter's coming down, but it's still continuing to lag where we really are, the numbers. And one of the big reasons why the core didn't come down is because lodging away from home, people staying in hotels, that actually shot up a bit last month, and that helped to keep that core inflation at steady at 3.3%. On the Thursday, we had the PPI, the Producer Price Index, which is the Wholesale Price Index. And that one came in hotter than expected. It was at 0.4%. Expectations were 0.2% increase. And the bad thing is these numbers of the PPI actually will filter into the PCE, which is the Personal Consumption Expenditure Report, which comes out at the end of the month. And it's kind of funny. The big surprise with the wholesale index was that price of fruits and vegetables was up by 31%, and eggs, chicken eggs, were up 55%. The foods that we like to eat, we need to eat to stay healthy, man, that's causing inflation to go up. We had another big report come out this last week, and that is the CoreLogic Home Equity Snapshot. And this is by the numbers. National home equity for the third quarter 2024 rose 2.5%, an increase of $425 billion in home equity increased in the third quarter. Now let's look at all these numbers. All right, there are 136 million total households in the U.S. 91 million of those homes are owned. All right, so that's a 67% home ownership rate across the country. 56.5 million of those homes currently have a mortgage, so 62% have a mortgage, while 34.5 million are owned free and clear. They don't have a mortgage, so 38% of people out there don't even have a mortgage. And that's insane. You just never even think about a home being fully owned. So that's basically almost 4 homes out of every 10 do not have a mortgage. Man, that's a lot. And let's keep going into these numbers. 45 million homes are rented right now. 45 million homes are rented. That's 33%. So 1 out of every 3 people living in a home are renting a home. And what is stopping them from buying? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things, but the biggest thing is there's only 136 million total households. We need more households. We're not building enough houses. And here's the big thing, though. The average equity for homes with a mortgage, the average amount of equity that people have in a home, all right, that they own, but they have a mortgage, is $310,000. When you take into consideration the equity that people have who are homeowners with and without a mortgage, that's over $440,000 average equity of people who own homes across the nation. I got to tell you, it's over $700,000. That is the average amount of equity that homeowners have in the state of Hawaii. That's a lot. That is a lot of equity. And I just talked to a client today. They're looking to move up from a house that they bought, gosh, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They have about $700,000 in equity. And guess what? They have a really low rate, but they just found that forever home that they can sell this one home on and put that equity to that forever home. And yeah, their mortgage payment's going to be higher at first, but guess what? It's going to go down. And they're going to have this nice big down payment that they can use to lower that mortgage payment right out the gate. So the reason why you buy that first home is to get you into that forever home later. And I tell you what, I'm so excited for this family. Can't wait to help them get into their forever home, man. It's a beauty too. I can't let the cat out of the bag and tell you who it is, but I'm super excited for them. So now let's get into initial jobless claims. I told you that was kind of a big shock there. Initial claims up 17,000 last week. That's 242,000. Continuing claims were up 15,000 to 1.886 million last week. So almost very rare that we have both the initial and the continuing claims both go up in the same week. Could this be a trend? Well, I will tell you this: 1 week doth not make a trend. If we see this continue, especially in the holiday season, if we continue to see initial and continuing jobless claims go up, well, I'll tell you what, then the Fed will probably be forced to make a couple more cuts, maybe bigger than 25 basis point cuts coming up at the beginning of the year. VA rates. Mortgage rates are still under 6.25%, but they're coming close. Normally, I show you the 1 year spread on VA rates. This time I want to show you a 5-year spread. Because a couple things, if you look at that last low in the middle of September, we are up almost half a point since the middle of September when rates dropped into the almost to the mid fives. Rates have gone up. They've come down in December, but really for much of the last couple months, they've gone up. Now, if you look at this across this entire spectrum since September of 2022, when rates initially shot up into the sixes, we have squarely been in that channel between 6 and 7% for the last 2 years. Despite rates being as high as they have been, man, to keep home prices as steady as they have been, that is pretty impressive. That just shows you the overall value that people take in home ownership. Now, let's take a look here. Since September 22, we have popped into the fives 4 times since then. They haven't been very long periods, people. And this is why I tell folks, if you're going to refinance, you got to be ready, because you can't be slow, because the amount of time that we're in that low rate range, it's very small. It's been very small. And there's no guarantee that we are not going to stay between 6 and 7% for the next year. What we want and what we're going to get could be 2 different things. Here's a question. Will the Fed funds rate drop next week? There's expectations that the Fed is going to drop the Fed funds rate by a 1/4 point. If they do, and they're expected to, will that get VA rates into the high fives? And moving forward, will we be able to stay in 2025 in a channel between 5 and 6%? If we do that, folks, home prices are going to go up. That inventory level is going to level off and start coming down. And then we're going to be really into what I would call a healthy housing market in Oahu and probably much of the country as well. So what does this mean? Well, for buyers, we had mortgage applications. They were down last week, down 4% last week, broke a 4-week winning streak where we had a positive number of mortgage applications. Refinance activity was up 27% last week because, hey, rates did come down over the course of the last 2 weeks. And again, if you listen to everything I just talked about, I would say you would agree with me that this is going to be a very good time to buy a home, especially with inventory as high as it is, and sellers are giving credits to the buyers. And for buyers, my only concern is know what you're buying, especially if you're looking at a condo, man. The condos right now are so hit and miss because HOA fees are going up. I own a couple of townhomes. The HOA/maintenance fees have gone up a lot there. You really have to do your due diligence. You got to work with a realtor who is going to take great care of you, okay? Man, just that person you get on Zillow, that might not be the right person, all right? You really need to work with somebody who is going to help you navigate the condo docs, the board minutes, the reserve studies, all these things that, and I tell you what, the worst thing that you can have, a buyer can have, is they get into a home and then a month later they find out they're getting assessed, $20,000 fee, or a boost in their maintenance fee by $200, $300 a month. And that's happening right now to some buyers, and that's where my caution is to you. Buyers beware, work with people who you know, like, and trust. Super important. Sellers, you have a lot more competition now. You got to be smart with lowering your price or giving more credits. Sometimes you might have to do both. But what your neighbor sold their house for 2 years ago, you're probably not going to get that today unless you come in with some credits. So that's what I got for you guys this week. Hey, have a great week. We'll talk to you later. And stay safe out there. Stay warm. And if you're in Hawaii, man, enjoy that beautiful sunshine. All right. Aloha.